Well, 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 it has been weeks and weeks and weeks. I'm finally done playing Mario Party, I'm finally done snowboarding in the New Hampshire mountains, and I'm finally done procrastinating this map review. Today, we are going to be analyzing Alpha Omega. You guys have been pushing me and badgering me so much in the comments section, rightfully so. I mean, I have been holding out for a very, very long time, and it's not for any other reason other than I'm just not particularly excited about this episode. Alpha Omega, to me, if we're going to jump right into it, is just such a meh map. Alpha Omega is such an average map that there isn't much to talk about, good or bad. If a map is great, I will sit there and compliment its grandeur, and vice versa. If a map is awful, you'll find me dismantling it in a half-hour video. But with a map like Alpha Omega, where there aren't any outstanding features for better or for worse, there just isn't much to say. I'm not saying that it's a bad map, but I'm also not saying it's a great one either. You know, it didn't really change the game of zombies. Let us discuss the Omega of Alpha, what it did correctly, and more notably, what it did incorrectly. Have you seen this map before? I'll bet you have. It's an absolute classic, one of the best, most highly regarded multiplayer maps of all time. Can you take a guess as to what its name is? I'll give you a few seconds. Nuketown. You got it. You see, Nuketown was so good and so loved by the community that of course it had to be recreated in future installments. Duh. It's a no-brainer. You want to take a guess as to how many times it was recreated before it was then again recreated as Alpha Omega? The answer is 6. This map was made in 6 different ways before Alpha Omega. You see, we're not off to a great start. This illuminates my major point, which is that Alpha Omega was just not a very innovative map. It was purely fan service. Alpha Omega was a recreation of a fan favorite map that we had already seen half a dozen times in the past. Clearly, they weren't trying to innovate or trying to make a brand new expansive zombies map. Already, the foundation of this map is unoriginal, but I will stop because I can hear you typing in the comments right now saying, Tim, the location itself, Camp Edward, is significant in the zombie storyline, and I hear you loud and clear, but really, was another Nuketown Zombies really necessary? I don't think so. I mean, we literally already have a Nuketown Zombies that already exists in the exact same location. I'm sure it makes sense, and I'm sure it was very easy to tie Camp Edward back into the storyline, but think about the players. We've got to revisit this map again for what seems like the 100th time. No matter how many times you try to alter its appearance and change things about it, at the end of the day, ultimately, it's still Nuketown. And we've seen Nuketown far too many times in the past. It's overdone. And that's why Alpha Omega felt like a lazy map, whereas other reimagined maps like Blood of the Dead, Tog der Toten, and Classified, although were reimagined as well, didn't seem as lazy, you know, because they hadn't been done so many times before. Don't get it twisted. I love remastered maps. I love reimagined maps, but you do cross the line at some point, and as far as I'm concerned, Alpha Omega did cross that line, especially since the vast majority of it was directly ported from Blackout into Zombies. So, the map is unoriginal, but that's not it. Everything inside the map is also unoriginal. First and foremost, the wonder weapons. On a map as unoriginal as Nuketown, you'd think perhaps we will get a set of original wonder weapons, something unique, something to keep the gameplay fresh and new, something that we haven't seen in the past. Well, not exactly. We got the Ray Gun Mark II again, which is the same wonder weapon we got in the original Nuketown Zombies. Granted, there are 4 different elemental upgrades, which I would say without a doubt enhances the replayability value and adds a bit of personality to the map. We've seen this formula in the past with maps like Origins and Horizon Track, but there is a major difference. When had we ever seen anything like the 4 staves on Origins? When had we ever seen anything like the Wrath of the Ancients on Horizon Track? We hadn't. When had we ever seen anything like the Mark II? Oh gee, I don't know, in almost 20 different maps prior? I think other than the original ray gun, the Mark II is the most commonly seen wonder weapon in Zombies. Once again, you can try to alter it as much as you want, you can add these elemental upgrades, but ultimately, it's still the ray gun Mark II, and ultimately, it's unoriginal. Let's take a look at the boss zombies, see how that's going. We got Hellhounds, different but not really. Nova Crawlers, different but not really. And Avogadro, different, but not really. I'm actually a fan of Avogadro on this map, but you see the trend, right? I am also a fan of Rushmore, the computer. I think it makes the gameplay interesting, but isn't that sort of reminiscent of something we saw in GK? Somebody named, oh, I don't know, Sophia? Also, the APD. The APD! Nothing like the MPD in which we saw on the moon. I mean, it just seems like nothing on this map is original. It seems like pretty much everything had been done in some capacity in the past. I feel like this is one giant recycling bin. I suppose you could argue the bunker was a new feature had you not played a single game of Blackout, but in the same respect, you're never really down there for large periods of time. You're sort of down there to pack a punch or do something brief and then get right out. You're going to want to train up above on the main portion of the map. I cannot find the brand new, innovative, outstanding feature in Alpha Omega that changed the game of zombies. I just cannot find it. This map is purely fan service. It's, hey, remember Nuketown Zombies, that fun map you played in the past? Let's reminisce a little. Also, the Mark II, what a fantastic wonder weapon. Let's reminisce on that as well. Also, those Hellhounds, those Nova Crawlers, those classic, iconic boss zombies. Remember those? That's all this fucking map is. Which is why this map is so uninteresting to me. They played it as safely as they possibly could have. They didn't take any risks. They didn't add anything new, for better or for worse. I can't talk about how good the map is, but I also can't shit on it for how terrible it is. It's the epitome of average. With all of that being said, I do want to make it abundantly clear that I am not saying that Alpha Omega is a bad map. I'm not saying it's a good one, but I'm also not saying it's a bad one. It's in the middle. It's average. I would say lower middle, more likely than upper middle, but it's floating around that area. Sure, Alpha Omega isn't the big, innovative experience in which we hoped for, but it is a fun map. It is a very casual, laid-back game of zombies with your buddies, and you can definitely enjoy it. I mean, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Much like the original Nuketown Zombies, this map is pure fun. I, for one, would have loved to have seen some new features, but Alpha Omega was still successful. The Rega Mark II, albeit a common wonder weapon, is a very fun one. The gameplay is full of action, it's very fast-paced, and can be enjoyed. And there is still the story to be enjoyed. We saw Maxis betray Monty and get ripped to shreds. We learned a lot about Broken Arrow, the research group, and we had some conversations between Dempsey and Peter McCain, the mannequin. Perhaps they could have been a little bit more creative with the story writing. Instead of taking us back to Camp Edward and back to Nuketown again, perhaps they could have gone in a different direction, but I'm not too upset about it. In conclusion, Alpha Omega did some good things, and definitely an equal amount of bad things, but I would say it's a middle-of-the-pack map. Alpha Omega, to me, is a meh map. There just isn't much to say about it. Very quick analysis also, I must add. Anyways, that's the end of it. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss the finale. Our final map analysis will be covering Tog der Toten, and I cannot promise you when that'll be out. I'm hoping next weekend, but I have a track record of saying things and that not being necessarily true. I also want to give a shout out to my buddy plus Johnny for some of the Wonder Weapon gameplay. His link is in the description. Definitely go subscribe to him. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you sleep well tonight, and I hope you continue to be successful in whatever you're doing in life, whether it's work or school or military, whatever it is. Thank you so much for your ongoing support. I love you. Goodbye.